All right, what is going on, Notre Dame football fans? I'm Tyler Horka with Blue and Gold Illustrated, blueandgold.com. As you can see, I am still at Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland, the site of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish's 42-3 victory over the Navy Midshipmen. Yes, 42-3. Kind of felt like 2012 all over again with a near 40-point differential, but I don't have any stats in front of me. They didn't print them out, so I'm kind of winging a little bit of this. But if you watched that football game or if you're reading about it at blueandgold.com, it's exactly what the final score indicated. Notre Dame was the better team here today, and that started with graduate transfer quarterback Sam Hartman. We were joking in the press box that it was kind of the first time that we saw Hartman without that red non-contact jersey. If you go back to the spring, it's all he wore it in the spring game. And then obviously in the fall, he's not taking that thing off, can't take an injury risk in fall camp. So first time we saw him wearing Notre Dame's navy blue, and boy, did he look good in it. 19 of 23 for 266 yards, I believe it was, and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Played nearly a flawless football game for Notre Dame, and that's kind of what led the charge. Obviously, the rushing game was great for Notre Dame as well. I don't have the total yardage in my head, but Notre Dame went for 444 yards, and Sam Hartman threw for 266 of those. So do the quick math at home. The rushing game was 6 yards per carry, so Audric Estime leading the charge. I believe he had 16 or 17 carries for 95 yards and the first touchdown of the game. It was really ground and pound for Notre Dame to come out. Estime leading the charge. Sophomore Jabron Payne got a couple carries on that first Notre Dame drive. Estime ended up punching it in on a 1-yard touchdown, but it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was getting a first down, and then obviously it was touchdown eventually. So Notre Dame jumped out to a 7-0 lead, and it kind of felt right then and there. Of course, we had to see the Navy offense come onto the field, and they moved the ball a little bit there in that first half, but no points to show for it. But really from that first drive forward for Notre Dame's offense, it kind of felt like it was going to be one of those nights where Notre Dame just sort of dominates in the football game, and that's the way that it played out. Navy's head coach in the post-game press conference came in and he said, "We just got beat tonight by a better football team," and some of the Navy players said that's probably the best football team that we'll face all year. Now, of course, this is just one game for Notre Dame, and one game against a team that went 3-9 last season, but it definitely felt different than anything Notre Dame did in 2022 en route to going 9-4, 8-4 in the regular season. And let's be honest here, that's because Notre Dame has a graduate student quarterback in Sam Hartman who's able to come out here and put up those numbers like he did. I mean, that was easy for Sam Hartman. Of course, it's going to get more difficult, maybe not against Tennessee State, an FCS opponent in week 2, but NC State in week 3. Ohio State, obviously, or week 2 of the regular season. This is week 0, obviously, but NC State in Notre Dame's third game. Ohio State in the penultimate week of September. It's going to get tougher for Sam Hartman. There's no doubt about that. But what you want to see from a starting quarterback is a guy that can go out there and make it look really easy against the easier, a little less strong teams on the schedule. And that's what he did against Navy. So offensively speaking, and we'll get to the defense here in a minute, Sam Hartman looked great. 2 of his touchdowns went to freshman wide receiver Jaden Greathouse. We got to speak to him in the post-game press conference, and he's humble as can be. And Sam Hartman is humble as can be, by the way, as well. He every time he was asked a question in the post-game press conference, I don't want to say deflected, but he ended up talking about somebody else, all the way down to Notre Dame's SID, Katie Lonergan, and the administrators. He didn't say them by name. He didn't say Katie by name. He didn't say Jack Swarbrick or Pete Bavacqua by name. Current Notre Dame athletics director, soon to be Notre Dame athletics director, but they were all in the room, and he gave them their due in the post-game press conference in a question generically asked about the Notre Dame offense. So that's the kind of guy that Notre Dame has leading its offense, and it trickles down to freshmen like Jaden Greathouse. He's in an impressionable time in his career. What Sam Hartman says and does, and the way that he goes about press conferences and just day-to-day things like that, Jaden Greathouse is going to pick up on those things, and you kind of sensed it in this press conference where Greathouse said, yeah, I mean, I had a couple touchdowns, but glory to my teammates, glory to Sam Hartman, glory to the coaching staff for putting me in the position to catch those 2 touchdown passes. So I really like what Notre Dame has offensively, even though it's just one game. Coming out of this game, you feel that the sky is the limit for the Notre Dame offense this season, just because, like I said, Audric Estime had close to 100 yards, and he didn't even need 20 carries to get that. And Notre Dame played all of its running backs today. There's 5 scholarship running backs. All of them got into the game and made contributions. Jadarian Price, the sophomore, on his first carry of his career, 19-yard touchdown. Jeremiah Love had some dazzling plays where he showed that combination of size and strength. So there was just so much to like from the Notre Dame offense, and I'd be remiss if I don't mention the Notre Dame offensive line that just paved the way for both the passing attack in protecting Sam Hartman and then the rushing attack as well for those guys that I just mentioned, Devin Ford being one of those, Jabron Payne, I mentioned him a little bit earlier. All 5 of those running backs, they owe the offensive line some high flies, some pats on the back, whatever it is on the airplane, the 7-hour ride back to South Bend. Those guys better be best buddies on that plane ride because it was all working in tandem. And I mentioned Jack Swarbrick a little bit earlier, kind of close to where I'm standing right now. Joe Alt, Blake Fisher, Pat Coogan, and Rocco Spindler. So 4 of the 5 Notre Dame starters along the offensive line were just kind of hanging out by themselves on the sideline. And Swarbrick came up to them and just fist bumped all 4 of those guys because I think even the Notre Dame AD could kind of realize that, hey, it starts up front. Sam Hartman said that in his post-game press conference. It does start up front with those Notre Dame offensive linemen, and they played one heck of a game. Defensively, it was a shutout until there were 3 minutes and 33 seconds left on the clock. So that should tell you everything to know about the Notre Dame defense. I know those graduate student linebackers are polarizing guys, but boy, did they all play tremendously well. J.D. Bertrand was his usual self, locking down the middle of the field. Maris Leofau, I thought, was really good in ball pursuit against an offense that's really hard to pursue the football because you don't know where it's going. They call it the triple option for a reason. There's a lot of options that this Navy offense, a lot of different directions that it can go. Maris Leofau seemed to know where it was going. That was an encouraging sign for someone last year who did look a little lost at times. I don't think he looked lost at all tonight. And then Jack Kaiser as well. There was a play, well, first of all, with Jack Kaiser, physicality. He was making tackles up near the line of scrimmage like a man possessed, like a madman. That was fun to watch from the press box. And then there was a play where Maris Leofau forced a fumble, and Jack Kaiser nearly recovered it right along the sideline here. Ruling was that he was out of bounds. I think he was. So it was the right call, but it was very nearly a turnover for the Notre Dame defense. They had a few close calls like that. Marcus Freeman definitely applauded the play of his defense overall and just adjustments on the sideline from Al Golden and the rest of those defensive coaches. But he did say there was one thing that was missing, and it was forcing a turnover. So that's just kind of lets you know that was probably circled high on the list. They wanted to force some turnovers. Possession was going to be huge. If this game was ever close, it was going to be because the Navy offense had the ball all the time and didn't let Sam Hartman do what he did here tonight. But at the end of the day, the Notre Dame defense, even though it didn't force a turnover, it was good enough to get off the field, to give the ball back to Sam Hartman. And that's how, at the end of the day, you do see 42-3 because the Notre Dame offense, when it had its opportunities, it was efficient. Third down efficiency. I don't have these numbers in front of me, but they were really good on third down, the Notre Dame offense. They were really good in the first half to build that 28-0 halftime lead. I mean, the game was over at halftime. Everything that happened in the second half was just a formality, but it started with that first drive and carried on throughout. So like I said a little bit earlier, Notre Dame plays Tennessee State in Week 1, Notre Dame's second game of the 2023 season. And they're riding high all the way back to South Bend from Dublin, Ireland because of this 39-point victory. Again, I'm Tyler Horka with Blue and Gold Illustrated, blueandgold.com. Definitely go to blueandgold.com for coverage of this game throughout the next couple of days and then leading into the home opener against Tennessee State next week.